What it do, what it do, what it do, good people. Coming to y'all live from Taz TV. See, I didn't even tell y'all that I had a special one on this Saturday. Yeah, I ain't tell you about this one. You know what I'm saying? Brought the king in here himself. Hey, Hub.
What's up, man? What's going on?
Tell before we get into it, let me introduce you correctly. You know what I'm saying? He just now got inducted to the Hall of Fame Curly, right?
Right.
But before we get in that, King, speak your name and where you from.
Brian Hubbard from Northeast Baltimore, born and raised. That's it, man. Born and raised, Northeast Baltimore, right around the corner, Chafford Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up around there, been around there my whole life. Attended public school up till 9th grade. So I went to
hold on, before we get there, what elementary school you went to?
St. Clair Lane.
St. Clair Lane.
Yep.
And then middle school, because this be for even her running Northeast.
Northeast middle, man. Northeast middle, where all the ballers was at.
All the ballers was there, and all the bullets was at her run. So I know y'all was getting chased home and all that. I know. Don't worry about it, though. Don't worry about it. Y'all successful today. That's why. Now, was basketball the only sport that you played? What other sports did you play?
I did the neighborhood stuff. So football around the neighborhood, really didn't play for any particular team. Because basketball was what I wanted to do, man. I started probably when I was maybe like 10. From then on, just that's what I did.
No football?
No football, just around the
You still get tell shit.
No, not really. I just never took into it.
Now rec ball, because we had some battles too. Yeah. Tell the people where you played AAU and where you played rec ball at.
All right, so I started out at Gardenville with actually a really good friend of mine, my brother Damon Jennifer.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Damon.
Yep, shout out to Damon. I played there 11, 12, 13, 14. And then I did a stint with Bucky Lee at Oliver going into like my sophomore year. And then one of the regrets actually was not being able to stay and play with him all through high school. So I did a stint with him, and then I played with the Junior All-Stars with Murdoch. Yep, Big Murdoch. Yep.
Now, y'all, listen here. When he was busting out ass, him and Dan was busting out ass, I was playing for Leafwalk at this time. But we had Arnold Boy.
Yeah.
They know about Arnold Boy. It's just that we couldn't beat them. We couldn't beat Gardenville. So, but y'all was, that was the pizza, man. That pizza. That's what it was. Give me that pizza out there. We were more concentrate on getting a pizza after the game and shit like that.
Right.
Now look, let's get into it. How you end up at Curly? Was no other schools you was?
So coming out of rec ball in middle school, it was a couple of schools that was recruiting me. Cardinal Gibbons was one, Curly was one, TC a little bit. And my first choice, I actually started my career out at Gibbons. I was at Cardinal Gibbons my freshman year with Brandon Jones and Gil and all those guys over there.
You just missed what's the kid? Was it Josh DeValley?
Josh DeValley was actually there. He was actually older. He was a
senior.
Yeah, he was when I got there, he was a sophomore.
A sophomore?
Yeah.
Now listen here, y'all. I ain't bring up Josh yet, because I know a lot of y'all slept on him, then lefty.
Yeah.
About 6'5", 6'6".
Tough.
You know what I'm saying? He first came off Met. You know what I mean? So but that's neither here nor there. That's Josh. Josh.
Yeah.
But all right. And you had Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. And then you had a little Gil over there. That was
so my freshman year was the year that the famous Coach Mullis, Ray Mullis, died. So it just was, the field wasn't right, man. Like, it was a lot of turmoil, it was a lot of just, they didn't know who the next coach was going to be. The coaches kind of was in kind of disarray, not in terms of us on the floor or nothing like that, but just figuring out where the program was going to go. Coach Mullis had been there for over 30 plus years, you know what I mean? So that's all Gibbons knew. So, in between that time, and plus it was a hike, man. I'm coming from Northeast Baltimore to Caton Avenue. So I had to get up had to be up waiting for my ride at 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 5:30, I'm over there. By the time we done, it's 7 o'clock. I'm getting back home 7:30.
Yeah.
You know, eating, showering, trying to do my work, and I just kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. So, Curly was always still around. Like the coaches always still talk to me. So when when the end of the school year was out, I was just like, I think it's time to make a change. You know, I think it's time to just come closer. I wanted to stay private school. And when I looked at them, it was a chance to go to a school that was smaller and play. So, you know.
Now, listen, I'm gonna say this because, like, because we transfer schools, people transfer schools, just that and the third for sports, and just that and the third. However, I can tell that you're a smart man now, so I can tell you was a smart boy at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Either make a conscious decision to, like, you know what, I'm gonna stay private, and you know what, not only am I gonna go to a different private school, I'm gonna go to Curly, and that's one of the hardest schools. Right. I hear still to this day, especially for athletes.
Yes.
All right, so I want you to tell the people how was that experience and what was you going through? Like you like, now I'm transferring forgiveness and I'm going to a different situation.
It was, in the beginning, it was tough because I was on restrictions. Like, you know, and one thing I tell the kids, I give them this story. When I was at Gibbons after basketball season, man, I missed maybe over 50 days of school. And I just stopped going. You know what I mean? Like I would go once a week, twice a week, maybe. You know what I mean? I just, for whatever reason, you know, having a single mother and her not, you know, her working and busting her tail, like I just stopped. You know, I would go once a week or something, or twice a week, you know. And she wouldn't know because, you know, you being a kid, you try to be slick. So I'd get up in the morning, put my shirt tie on, you know, and she would leave out the door before me. And once she was gone, I just.
That was a lot of kids did that. A lot of kids did that. Was it? Do you think? I ain't gonna say the depression, but I know it was something mentally in order for you that it was something that.
Yeah, it was more of like I felt kind of out of place there. Okay. You know, it wasn't a push from at home because again, my mother so caught up in working, you know what I mean, to make sure I had what I needed that, you know, it was kind of like, all right, you know, basketball season over with. And then at that time, all of us thinking, yo, I'm going to the league, you know what I mean? So our whole mindset is just on sports, not, you know, using it as a vehicle to get you where you need to go. So when I went to Curly, I was on restrictions. It was like, if you miss more than 5 days, we kicking you out. And I had to go to summer school to make up for some of the classes I did in my 9th grade year. So, you know, it was, so that first couple months was tough because I had to, you know, I had to adjust to being like, I even had the principal call me one day and was like, you know, you 2 minutes late, where you at? And I'm like, I'm on my way, you know what I mean? But that's the foundation and the attention to detail they had over there, which, you know, in the long run, helped me a lot, so.
Now, can you tell a kid that may be watching this, right? And I know some of you kids that are going to watch this, when they're going through a time like that, when they may be transferred from a school, they maybe feel like their career may be up in the air, and they feel like they maybe can't talk to nobody. What would you say to them?
First thing is talk to somebody. You got to have somebody in your life that you feel comfortable talking to. You know, maybe it's your coach, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, older brother, you know, guy you looked up to, guy around the neighborhood, whatever. You got to talk to somebody because you need it. Right. I mean, you know, you need that guidance. You know, being 15, 16, you know, you just worried about the sport. You just worried about, I want to get to this level. So this is the best place for me. But I would say talk to somebody. And then, you know, ultimately with basketball, you want to play. You know, you see a lot of kids now that transfer to these schools, you know, from a decent situation. You know what I mean? They transfer to these schools and they behind 5, 6, 7 people. You know what I mean? Because I ain't mentioned this, but Bucky wanted me to transfer to St. Francis. Okay. But I'm looking down there and I'm like, you got Mark Carter, who ain't coming out the floor.
Right.
You got Sean Hampton. And then at the position at the time I played, you got Charles Buford.
Yeah.
You got Bird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got guys that I'm like, you know, I'm as good at, or we gonna battle for those minutes. You know what I mean? And I looked at Curly like, I can go there and make
play.
And make not only play, but help them if some other pieces come around, help them be competitive. You know what I mean? So that's what I wanted to do.
That was good, man, because a lot some that was a good business move at a young age. You know what I'm saying? That's a good business move. Now we're gonna fast forward. Now let's get to now we're on the court. Now let's tell the people about, because y'all don't get no respect. You don't really hear too many people. I ain't talking about as your school. I'm just talking about as a conference and things of that nature. Right. So I want you to tell the people, talk and tell the people a little bit about your career. Because listen, you don't get to you don't get to no Hall of Fame or nothing like that for nothing. And I don't care what level you are. If you can put that ball in that basket, you put that ball in that basket. I don't care. And I respect it. I respect you back there. I already knew you go. So all this curly stuff don't even matter to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm impressed with the mind anyway right now. Right. So, but I want you to tell the people, did you feel a little frustration from y'all not getting that type of credit? You over there busting your tail, and tell them how you let your team to y'all did y'all thing, and then they put y'all in another conference. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my sophomore, first going over there, no, because we were building something. So, you know, not only I transferred, but a couple other kids transferred in that I had played with previously at Gardenville. And then they had a decent amount of younger talent over there. So we were young, and it had just went from being in the B conference, which it's a tough conference. You know what I mean? Like it don't get the recognition because a lot of kids, you know, it's a second tier kids, if you would say, kids that can play, but you know, just wasn't on the big time radars like some of these other kids. So, so my sophomore year, we played like I said, we played all the A conference schools. You know, we played Gibbons, we played St. Joe, we played St. Francis with Mark. I think it was Mark maybe senior year, maybe Sean sophomore year, because me and Sean both 98. So.
Who was your coach?
Dan Poplar, man, and I say one of the most underrated coaches in this area. I mean, you speak his name outside of this area, and a lot of people know him. I mean, he was like this with West Unseld. Great guy. Coached with Jerry Savage, the late Jerry Savage Jerry Savage actually his coach in high school.
Wow.
He went to St. Joe. He played at Loyola, so he was a 4-year starter at Loyola College. But just, I mean, a great basketball mind. So he was my coach over there. And we just, you know, we just was a hardworking team. So we wound up being second in our conference. We was in the C at the time. Wound up being second in our conference. And we played a school, I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with it, but the Park School. Yeah, so the Park School at the time when I was in school was decent. So they had they were the only team in the conference.
Was they the same, they like the same as Friends?
Yeah. So they were the only team in our conference to beat it. So they were like 23-4 on the year. So they were ranked 20th, I think, at the time. And they had beat us twice. I mean, they beat us in regular season. They beat us at their place by like 5 or 6, and then beat us at home by like 20. I mean, they scored 120 points. Yeah, they smacked us. So coming in, we met in the championship. So coming into the championship, you know, it was just a foregone conclusion they were going to beat us. So my coach came up with a statement like, refuse to come in second. And we ran them out the court, man. So ran them out the court, won the C conference, and then we moved up to the B.
I know they was hot.
Yeah.
I know they still think about that to this day. Like, how you gonna beat up on them all year long? Then we choked. But I didn't call it choke because you lost. Right. But go ahead.
Right. So then we moved up to the B. My junior year in the B, we did really well. We lost, I think overall we lost maybe like 5 games. We played all the A conference schools tough. We actually beat Gibbons at UMBC. It was Gil's maybe freshman year. Yeah, it was Gil's freshman year and Brandon's junior year. So they had a really good team. So we beat them at UMBC. We took St. Joe down to the wire, took Loyola down to the wire. The only team that in the A or the team overall that blew us out that year was Calvert Hall.
Okay.
And that's when Juan was a senior, Pat was a senior, Ern. They was
too loaded.
Yeah, they was loaded. You know what I mean? But we had a really good. We had a really good junior year. My junior year, wound up being ranked like 20th in the city.
So I see the progression.
Yeah. So it was progression. We wound up losing though, man. Taking the team for granted, we wound up losing. We had just beat the team by like 20. The week before, and we wound up playing them in the semis, and they wound up getting us at home, which was tough to take. You know what I mean? Because that was the year we looked at like where if we got to the chip, we could win it. Because we probably were going to play McDonough, and we had beat them twice during the year, but they was battles with Dave, R.I.P. to Dave.
Yeah.
He was a freshman at the time, and so we thought we got to the chip, it would be ours. So then my senior year, we had an opportunity to move up to the A, but we didn't take it. And then my senior year, we did pretty good too. I think at one point in time we were ranked, lost in the semifinals to Dave and them and McDonough. They had a real good team that year. Dave Lund, Eric King, I think, was over there, some other guys. So they did real well. And that was it. That was the high school career.
Now you attended Stevenson, right?
Yeah.
Now, you wanted to stay home? Did you want to go?
So again,
and talk to the kids a little bit.
Right.
For the ones that say this, like that's undecided, that's really that may think about staying at home like it's a bad thing.
Right.
It's not a bad thing for everybody.
No, because I eventually started away. I went to junior college in Massachusetts at a school called Dean Junior College. I got a partial scholarship because it was so last minute. Because Stevenson was my first choice, but I want to say SAT scores weren't high enough.
Okay.
So I couldn't get in. So I went to junior college. Did pretty well up there. Second on the team in scoring. And then I came home. So, if anybody know about judo, you go to what's called a ball. I don't know if they still have it, but they had something called ball saw. The ball saw is like a postseason, basically combine camp. So you go there and a lot of the D2 schools, D3 schools come look at you. So when I went there, dude from Wheeling Jesuit University in West Virginia. And they offered me a partial scholarship. So, of course, I took it, went down there, did a year, and then
How was that down there?
You know what, man? In hindsight, it was good because it was nothing but basketball in school.
Man, we went down there for a weekend. When we played down Dunbar, we played Wheeling High.
Yeah.
Man, they cheated us so bad. Like seven of us fouled out the game. Like it was it was so bad. It was another team from New York. It was another team from New York that was down there. Boom, and I just saying it. I just saying it. He reminded me, he was like, you remember when we was down to Wheeling, Virginia? Right. I'm like, man, yeah, we could have lost down there because they cheated.
Right.
That's why I was like,
it's different. Tough. It's different down there, but it was good for us because our campus was off and it was like in the country. So it was nothing but basketball and school. But our coach, which he was from here, he wound up getting fired. So when he wound up getting fired, again, we just was kind of juggling where to go. So I reached out to the Stevenson coach, was Billy Julie at the time. Okay. And he was just like, yeah, man, we'd be happy to have you come back home. So that's how I got back to Stevenson, or Villa Julie at the time it was.
Oh, that was good. Tell the people about the experience at Villa Julie.
Oh, man, I had a ball, man. I mean, people don't, it's a huge campus now, but when I was there, it was smaller, but just, I never had no issues. I mean, I had fun on the court. even though we weren't successful as I would like to have been. And then I had a good time off of it while still, going to school and doing what I had to do. But, I met some people there that had become, lifelong friends too. So.
And that's good. Like, as far as you coming from Baltimore and you lived in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Was it used in the mountains? Something like that?
Yep.
You lived in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you're around different type of individuals, and you still manage to keep the main thing. And man, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the day. Where we at today? Because at one time you was coaching with Team Orange now, right?
Right. Yep. Shout out to Ty. I was with Team Orange, doing some AAU stuff. Me and Brandon Thompson, who is now the head coach at Lock Raven, went to Northern. We had a team, did fairly well, and then I took over the 7th grade team for a while until my son got sick, and then I kind of stepped away. So I'm jumping back into the AAU a little bit. One of my close friends that played with me in college has started his own AAU team in Annapolis called the Running Mad. So I'm gonna help him out with that. I'm gonna grab the 10th grade team, and it's also a chance for me to coach my son again because he's in the 10th grade right now.
Oh, that's great.
And then this, the dude has a great vision. Like, it's not only basketball, but he got mentoring programs going on, and he's all about development. So that's something I want to get into, and that's my lane. You know what I mean? So
that's what I want to hear more of, right? Because it's kind of like the kids that's coming up today. Matter of fact, what state of the game? I think the game in a good state right now, right? However, is always another side to it, right? So sometimes you gotta take the good with the bad.
Right.
But how you feel about the state of the game today?
I think it's in a good place. I think we got a lot of young talent here in Baltimore, like a lot of young talent. I mean, you got guys that you hear about now, but it's even, younger kids that I think if they stay on the right path and had the right people guiding them and molding them, that, it's going to be back like how it was, like me and you talked before we got on air. To me, the greatest era of basketball, and I'm partly biased because I played in it, was like that 93 to 2000 era, man. I think you had a lot of really, really good players, you know what I mean? So, it's in a good state, but I also think we can be better as coaches, as mentors, and just mentoring these kids, you know what I mean?
Elaborate a little bit.
So, for me, it's all about the development stage till you get to a certain point. So I think from the time you touch a ball till maybe your 10th grade year in high school, it's all about development. It's not so much about this kid being ranked here or that kid being ranked there or this kid being a number one person. It's about just the development of the player. You know what I mean? Because being a high school coach now, if you get a kid that can play the game, he's miles ahead of where he needs to be. Now you can focus on that little stuff that can get him to become a Division I player or get him eventually, if he's good enough, to become a pro. But I think, sometimes we get lost in looking at kids and saying, man, this kid is ultra talented. So, he's just going to be the next, you know what I mean, instead of developing his skill set. So he's ready to step onto the next level, because each level you go to, you progress, it's harder.
Yeah, you got to put yourself all over again.
And it's harder, you know what I mean? When you go from a high school senior to college freshman, it's not too many, we see the players that go and dominate, but it's not too many of them. You got to take your lumps. You got to learn that you playing a grown man sport now, where it's about your fitness and eating habits and all that stuff. So I think the earlier we can get kids on that, the better they'll be prepared mentally for that level.
And by you saying mentally, it's a difference, like you said, it's a difference in the level of play. But can you explain it to kids that first semester sometimes, that first semester of work and schedule, it had to be on time for training, study hall, one-on-ones, all that. How that's big, because something we should be like this in Baltimore. We'll see if we'll see how the person is if he go to school, if he gonna last for 2 or 3 months.
Right.
If he lasts for 2 or 3 months, he gonna be fine. But a lot of times, people go to school and be like, oh, and they'll come back and say, well, the coach ain't like me, or they was playing with me, all types of excuses. You hear, because sometimes I look at it, that's a breaking point too. Some people can't handle it, not hearing their name, or you gotta start over somewhere else. Is that the third? Telling people, telling kids that may be going through that situation that may feel like, oh, I want to give up, or I want to go home. To tell them like that. They're not the only one that feel like that.
No. I think when you make that, you got to make that adjustment. So I think the more, again, you go back to preparation beforehand. The more you prepared before you step into that environment, the easier it's going to be. Not saying that it's going to be easy and you're going to not have your pitfalls, but it's going to be easier. So, that, because that, like you said, the first 2 months is torture, man. It's 5:30 workouts, weightlifting after you on the track, school, individuals, and practice. You know what I mean? So if you're not used to having a schedule like that already, or being somewhat oriented or somewhat detailed or somewhat having, being able to be task oriented, you're gonna struggle. But that's why I tell kids, start it now. You know what I mean? Start that type of stuff. Start, waking up early. You know what I mean? So even with this virtual stuff right now, your class 8 o'clock, wake up 6:30, 7 o'clock. Get yourself ready. You know what I mean? Like, have your tasks down, have your time down, so you can time manage. So when you get to college, it's not a culture shock to you. So
right.
That's one thing I would tell the kids. And then again, it's all about, leaning on somebody else. So especially when you go to college, you got upperclassmen that's been there, that's done that.
Right.
So leaning on them, hey, I need help with this. How did you get through this right here? How did you manage to do that? You know what I mean? Because all the time, a lot of guys ain't gonna be open, because especially if you're a high recruit, they feel like you're gonna take their spot.
Right.
So you got to make them feel comfortable enough to be like, look, you're a senior, you've been through the wars. I need your help to get to where I need to go to. So I think it's just a combination of both.
And maturity, though, because sometimes at that age, you're not mature. Boys now, girls is different, but boys, it takes us a minute to get to open up.
Yeah, the light bulb turn on.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The girls start out young, telling each other business. You know what I'm saying? The comfort them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We get all we look. I'm just getting to that point now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? In college or expecting it, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. But look, because that's neither here. That's a whole nother conversation. Right. However, before we get out of here, I need you got the floor. I need you you got the floor, B. Whatever you have going on, whatever you got going on in the future, you know what I'm saying? You got it. That's tough.
All right. Right now, man, just, my 9 to 5 is teaching. I'm a teacher at Kenwood right now. Just helping out with the special ed department. I coach. I actually, with circumstances I would have wished would have been a little bit better, but I'm now like the interim head coach at Friends School of Baltimore.
Okay.
So,
okay. Great.
So thank you. So, just trying to continue to build that legacy that was built. I got to give a shout out to Kyle Harmon. So he was the head coach before me and actually brought me in as an assistant. So he gave me an opportunity to continue.
My fault cut you off though. Can you tell the people what, because you recruiting.
Right.
Tell the people the difficulty in recruiting at schools like that.
Man, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, some of the schools have, the vision. They understand the vision. I feel like.
Don't say nothing to get you in trouble.
No. I feel like, sports is just as important a vehicle as the education piece. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you want a well-rounded, we talk about student athletes.
Right.
So you want a well-rounded student athlete. You know what I mean? You want a person who can represent your school. So when they have that name on their chest, you're looking at that kid like, okay, yeah, he represents that school well. The difficulty for us is finding that right type of kid, you know what I mean? Which 95% of the times you do. You find a kid, great parents or great parents, great background. Most of the kids we've recruited or have at our school are A students.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And really, really good kids with really good families. It's the financial part that's tough. Like our school is almost as expensive as a college. You know what I mean? So when you dealing and you recruiting kids that look like us, it's tough. You know what I mean? I know I don't have, $30,000, $35,000 to kick out a month or a year, to pay for my son to go there. So so I can imagine. So that's the dilemma we kind of face a little bit is, it's mostly financial. I think, we get good kids, we recruit good kids. It's just the financial burden. So, that's something that, the school is taking a look at, that they're trying to work towards. And I think
donations.
And I think,
maybe up to, I know they can find some money for 2 scholarships, you know what I'm saying?
So they're working towards that, man, because Friends is real big, which I don't knock it all, but they're real big on academics. They're real big on the academic kid. And that's
which it should. That's a great thing, because when they get to college, it's a whole different ball game. It won't be like a culture shock to them.
And those kids go out and they become great contributors to our society. So, you know what I mean? It's just for us to be competitive, you gotta kind of find that where you can fit in, you know what I mean? So the other part of that though is, for me as a coach, it's the development piece. So for me, I'm huge on development. I'm huge on, the fundamental skill set and all that stuff. Because I think you can negate some of the talent if your teams can play hard and they fundamentally sound. So, that's the challenge that I face a lot of times is, okay, we don't get this kid. All right, this kid that we have, let's make him a better basketball player while we making him a better person as well.
Yeah. That's what's up. Listen, man, I thank you for joining the platform.
Always a pleasure,
you know what I'm saying?
Pleasure. I appreciate what you're doing.
You doing big bangs, man.
No, I appreciate what you're doing, man, for the culture, the basketball culture. I always say we need a story about Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see, and no knock to any place up, but you see PG County, you see documentaries about them, and you see the documentaries about New York. But man, we got some talent, and we had some talent, man. Yeah. The guys that came before us,
Oh, it's in the works. I got people working now, so and I ain't talking about my projects, but I know I sparked some things. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I know this not come from me. Ain't no document. This is my lane. I do interviews, so y'all don't need to worry about me. But yeah, so I know some coming, because I know you feel the same way I feel. Yeah. There's a lot of talent here, not only in basketball but football too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I did a list with basketball, but y'all don't. The football is just a little different. It's teams. But that's neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying? Again, I appreciate you for joining the show. You know what I mean? Anytime you need to come and you want to say anything, you want to promote something, you got the platform. So just come live for Taz TV.
Yes, sir.
1.